of you have asked yourself, where has the time flown? How many of you feel like time is accelerating? You know that when you were a kid, that your perception of time was that it was moving more slowly, and as we've aged, time seems to be going faster and faster as we move into adulthood. Well, that means as we age, a year of our life is getting perceptually shorter. It's quite a disturbing thought. But what if you could slow down time, thereby lengthening your life? What if you could effectively add years to your life? Well, let's go back to thinking about childhood, when time seemed to move more slowly. Have you ever noticed how a child goes through their day? They question it, they encounter it. They're always asking tons of questions. Anyone who's been around a kid knows that they do that. Their brain is always making lots of new connections. And when that child goes back to remember the day, it's filled with all sorts of observations and discoveries. A child's experience of life is so rich and vibrant and filled with detail. What happens in our adult brains for our day? Starts like, I woke up, I had another coffee, I did another workout, I had another commute, I went to another meeting. Everything falls into all of these predetermined categories, and our brain categorizes them and dismisses them. And our adult brains are fantastic at creating these extraordinary shortcuts that have helped us over the years navigate quickly and efficiently, get through the world. But the only problem is that it limits the amount of new impressions that we can take in. It limits the amount of life that we can take in. So is it possible to slow down time? For me, time slows down when I am creating my art. When I'm creating my art, I'm deeply internalizing detail. I want to get inside of the person or the thing that I'm painting or capturing. If I'm painting an athlete or a musician, I want to try to mentally become that athlete or musician. I want to think how he thinks. I want to feel how she feels. I want to see how he sees. All of that requires a lot of paying attention and being super present in the moment. But then time is lengthened. Time slows down. But I've equally witnessed time expanding when I've been attentively poring over an artwork as a viewer. So you don't have to be an artist or a painter to experience time slowing down. Art really does have this magical capability to slow down time. It's a phenomenon that I've observed over the years. But the key is that you really have to let yourself get completely immersed in the artwork. You can't run around the Metropolitan Museum or the MoMA and scan through 100 artworks in 30 minutes or 45 minutes. That accomplishes virtually nothing. You really have to sit with an artwork for minutes or hours and get into a deep state of immersive attention. So with my artworks, I really love to invite the viewers to see the world in a new way, in a deeper way. Do I want to capture beauty? Yes. Do I want to spark your imagination? Yes. Do I want to capture the essence of things? Yes. But additionally, I would love to slow down time in your world. And why is that? Because when you really get deep with art, when you really allow yourself to open up to art, art helps you see so many things with new eyes. It really forces you to pay attention, but it also rewards you for discovering new things in unexpected places. It trains us to find beauty and meaning in all sorts of things. And as a result, art changes the way we view our everyday life, our experiences, our friends, our world, ourselves. And, you know, I believe that all true art really does slow down time if we, as the viewers, give it a chance by giving it enough time. And additionally, in my artworks, I have built in a number of interactive features that make the artworks like living organisms, that really pull you, the viewer, into the world of the artwork. And in some of my past talks, I've gone through a whole slew of artworks, but I really would love for you to come with me as I explore just 4 artworks a little bit in depth. So the first piece that I'd like to tell you about is After the Celestial Axe. After the Celestial Axe is a sculpture in the forest in the midst of 600 acres of dense, pristine California forest owned by Carl Djerassi and the Djerassi program in their sculpture collection. But what happens, walk with me in the forest. Imagine you're walking in the forest, lots of trees and dense brush, and in the distance you see something sparkling mysteriously, unexpectedly, and brightly. And as you get closer, you see there's something that has happened, an event of mythic, incomprehensible proportions. Well, a big, enormous, mythical, celestial axe had fallen from the heavens and had sliced this massive oak tree, which is as wide as this room that we're in right now, in 27 different places. And as that blade had receded back into the clouds, into the heavens, it had left this frothy residue of reflective fragments and starry formations on all of the different slabs of the tree. And this piece really is a work that is like a living organism, because it's so different. If you go there at different times of the day. So this is the trunk, and this is over 2 meters across. And when you walk up to it, your eye tends to read it as transparent. You feel like you could almost walk into it, across it, and you'd be entering into an alternate world. There's this really interesting blend of earth and sky and trees and the environment, and if you, the viewer, are standing there, you and the environment are collapsed into the skin, into the surface of the artwork. It's really a bit like living cubism as well, because if you're standing there, you see several parts of your shoulders and multiple eyes and parts of your body, all repeated, fragmented, and deconstructed. And I think it's cognitively stimulating because each of you, when you're looking at it, see it a little bit differently and are trying to reconstruct the environment. But again, if you go there in noon, when the sun is hot and gold and warm, the artwork is totally different than if you go there at twilight with periwinkle restrained hues, or in the middle of the night, when you will see 1,000 crescent moons reflected all throughout the artwork. So I see people go to this piece and they lie underneath it, they walk around it, they go underneath it, and they're also constantly taking photographs of themselves inside of the work, taking these photos, making constant little derivative works. In that sense, this artwork, I see it as a platform work. But the scale of this piece, the size, the visual complexity, the interactivity are all things that contribute to it being a decelerator of time, something that slows down time for you when you are there viewing it. So next I'd like to tell you about a totally different artwork called the Tree of Pascal. But like After the Celestial Axe, it's also meditative, it's experiential, it's also like a living organism. So the Tree of Pascal is a work that was inspired by the great French mathematician and philosopher Blaise Pascal, one of the greatest minds to bridge art and science. He said, "Man is but a reed, the most feeble thing in nature, but he is a thinking reed." He goes on to say that the universe need not arm himself to crush him. The universe can easily crush man. But the power that the universe has, despite all this power, it's not aware of its power. Whereas man, who's very fragile, is aware of himself and aware of his own weakness because he thinks, because he is a thinking reed. And so that is the thing that elevates us, according to Pascal, is that we think. And so he ends by saying we must endeavor to think well. very profound statement that he rests on our shoulders. So this is a photograph of the work, and tucked inside of this prismatic structure is a small living tree. You can think of this artwork in a nutshell as the brain waves of over 100 people from all over the world working in concert to keep one small tree alive. So in this installation, one small tree is actually depending for its survival on the thoughts of all of these people. You can also think of it as a digitally enabled ecosystem. And what we did was, over the course of a year, collect the brainwaves of over 100 people, arrange those with custom software, and then run them into this installation where there's a panel of electrochromic glass, which is not like ordinary glass, because depending on the voltage that you apply to electrochromic glass, the opacity of it changes and shifts from being transparent to becoming more opaque. So, as the collective brainwaves are inputted, if everyone is thinking hard and thinking well, then the glass becomes clear and transparent, light can go through, photosynthesis can happen, and the tree can thrive. But as people's thoughts start to weaken, the light shifts, the glass becomes more opaque, and the tree will suffer and die. So this is a work that we also, this is what it looks like inside without the electrochromic glass. And we also built a mode where up to 5 people can put on the emotive EEG headsets and contribute with their live brainwaves, influencing the work and what's happening inside of the piece. These are the painted panels on the back of the piece. And this is a work that really encourages you to think hard, to think well, to focus, to meditate, and therefore to slow down time. I'd like to show you my membranes, which are a completely different type of work. The membranes were inspired by this idea that I was bothered by the fact that so many artworks are these static objects that you're just supposed to gaze at or look at. And I thought, what if I could make something that was more like a viewing tool for seeing the world in a new light? So the membrane is really a tool for transforming how we view the world and see the world. And with the membrane, you see a changing, shifting blend of what is behind the membrane and what is behind you or in front of the membrane. And the reason I call them membranes is because membranes, physical or biological membranes, are things that allow only certain things to permeate. And here, visually, certain things are allowed to permeate. Certain things are blocked, concealed. Other things are opened up. It shifts as you move around. And there's these little poetic windows into the environment. A lot of my art collectors have put these in a diversity of interior environments, but also outdoors. And these are pieces that really encourage you to interact with them over a long period of time and to stop and to view your environment differently. The last piece I want to show you is called Thirst. So I've been interested in taking mundane objects and transforming them and infusing them with meaning. So this started out as an ordinary bucket, but then I have taken hundreds of intricately placed mirrors, arranging them all around with a high degree of optical purpose, and created this bucket where it's this vortex-like shape that pulls you, the viewer, inside and over the edge. I call it thirst because there is a kind of visual fluidity to the way that it looks, but also because it thirstily devours and transforms the environment that it's around. And this was shot in my studio, which is a very neutral environment. But you take this bucket and you move it and you put it in a variety of places, and it looks completely different. And it's really a piece that invites you to linger, to spend time. And because of all of these complex series of reflections that are taking place, on any given day when you're there, what's inside of the bucket is your dreams, your aspirations, your thoughts, your emotional state. And I hope that this is another work that is a great decelerator of time. So technology and social media are forcing us to look faster and faster, to ingest more and more images, to stuff ourselves with images. And this is, this is good to an extent. We have all of these proliferation of image sharing platforms, and more images are replacing words in our communication channels. We now need to not only speed read, we need to speed see. But I have a challenge for you. The next time you find a work of art that really speaks to you, go and be with it for 2 hours. The first 5 minutes, your mind may be restless. The first 20 minutes, you may find your mind wandering uncontrollably as if you are new at meditation or something. But at the 30-minute mark, something happens. At the 45-minute mark, something very interesting happens. And your brain will start making all sorts of interesting connections inside of the work and about the work. And as this is happening, as your eyes are poring attentively over every detail of this artwork, time is going to start to slow down. And the best part is that that is a slowness that you can carry with you into the rest of your day. So I think this is good, because with all of this information overload, we're shortening our lives, and we are also collectively on our way to losing our Zen mind, beginner's mind. One of Steve Jobs' favorite book was Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki. And Suzuki said, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the mind of the expert, there are few. So let's use art to go back and find that original beginner's mind. And in so doing, find more possibilities. Thank you.